Hey everybody, Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country right here on Fish Creek Radio. There's an old saying, if you want someone's attention, whisper. Well, my guest tonight has been using that philosophy for over 50 years to capture the attention of country music fans all around the world. As an artist, he's released over 40 studio albums and 7 number ones, 29 top 10 singles. And as a songwriter, over 400 of his songs have been recorded by other artists. And he is the only songwriter in country music history with a self-penned song in the charts for 7 consecutive decades. In fact, every song you'll hear on our show tonight was written or co-written by this man. He's getting set to release a new book called The Unprecedented Life in Country Music, and is here to share with us some of his wonderful experiences. It's a true pleasure to welcome Country Music Hall of Fame member Bill Anderson to My Kind of Country. Bill, hello.
Well, Scott, thank you for such a nice introduction. I hope I can live up to it.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I really appreciate it. You know, Bill, I was reading through so many of the songs that you've written, and I got to tell you, my show would be an awful lot shorter had you not written all these songs.
Well, bless your heart. I appreciate you playing every one of them anytime you can. Thank you.
And I did not know that you co-wrote Saginaw, Michigan.
Kind of an interesting story on that. I didn't start out as the co-writer of Saginaw, Michigan. A guy named Don Wayne actually had the idea, and he wrote the first half of the song and couldn't figure out how to end the story. He had a guy from Saginaw, Michigan in love with a girl who was from I guess a little higher class family than he was, and her dad didn't want them to be together. And Don Wayne got the great idea for the story. He kind of painted himself in a corner, didn't know how to get out of the corner. And they came to me one day and asked me if I could help him finish it, and I did, and that's how my name got on it.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Well, of course, being from Michigan, I've always been that's been a favorite song of mine, so I had to ask you about that one.
Well, I've been to Saginaw, Michigan many times. In fact, when I was growing up, living in South Carolina, we had some people who were in the Army were stationed in the town near where I lived, and they were from Saginaw, Michigan. So the first time I heard the song about Saginaw, Michigan, I immediately gravitated toward it.
Oh, yeah. Well, folks, BillAnderson.com is the place to go, and you can pre-order a brand new book that is coming out called An Unprecedented Life in Country Music. And I understand you can get an autographed copy if you pre-order that. Is that right, Bill?
Sure can. Yeah, the book won't actually be released until September, but we're going to have a few advanced copies available the first part of August for the people who pre-order now. So the people who are interested, they can go to BillAnderson.com and find out all about it. As you said, the book will be out, or as I said, I think the book will be out the first part of September, and then a couple of months later, we're going to follow it up with an audio book. I just gotten through reading an audio book, and I'd never spent that much time in a studio in my life. It takes a long time to read 100,000 words.
Boy, I'll bet it does. That's got to be harder than recording songs.
Yeah, you do a song in 3.5 minutes. It takes a lot of time to read that book, but it was fun. I enjoyed the experience, and hopefully some of the folks that maybe don't have time to sit down and actually read a book, maybe they travel a lot and get in a car or a truck or something and listen to the audio book. So we're going to have that available as well.
Now, when you recorded your audio book, did you kind of paraphrase some of the stuff that you'd written? Is there a little bit more in the audio book, or is it pretty much verbatim?
No, it's pretty much verbatim. The people that we did it for, the people that are releasing it, and all said that they want their audio books to be, exactly like the printed version, because I think there's some kind of new technology where you can link the two up, where you can read, maybe it's an e-book or something you read, and you can go along and listen to the audio book at the same time, and so it's pretty much got to be that way, and that's the way we had to do it.
I see. Well, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. How does this differ from your previous book that you did, Whisperin' Bill, your autobiography?
Well, in a way, the new book kind of picks up where that one left off. I wrote that book in 1989 thinking that I had spent 30-plus years in the music business, and that's probably about all I was going to have. And then, doggone, I came along and had a whole second career, particularly as a songwriter. So this book focuses a lot on the songwriter aspect of my life and my career, and kind of picks up where the other one left off.
Well, you kind of had you've almost had a whole second career, with the resurgence of country, and you've had some just tremendously huge songs that have been on the charts here in recent years. How does that feel for you?
Well, it's something I never envisioned. It's something that's been, that's why the book is called The Unprecedented Life in Country Music, because I don't think there's been a whole lot of people that have had two careers, which is basically what I've had. I had the first career that lasted up until the late 80s, around 1990, and then I kind of got away from it for a while and got back into it, and it's been an absolute blessing is what it's been.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, I'm sure that, you've been asked this so many times, how do you write songs? How's your inspiration? But I'd like to know how you look at life. Do you look at things differently, with kind of a songwriting, thought in mind?
I tell people, Scott, I have kind of a songwriter's antenna, and I'm certainly not the only person. I've talked to a lot of my fellow writers and co-writers, and I think when you're into writing songs, you just almost look at life like it's a big song waiting to be written. Somebody will say something to you, you'll hear something in a movie or on television, read something in the newspaper, in a book or something, and you just kind of think of the world and look at the world like it's just one big song. And if you can find out a new way to say something that's been said before, something that people can relate to, that's when you know you've got a good idea for a song, and you sit down and try to craft it. I talk in the book a lot about the songwriting process, how part of it is art and part of it is craft, and it really is. Getting the ideas, the art part, and then the hard part is the craft. I'm making it all rhyme and meter out and fit and make sense.
Oh yeah. Do you find that some of the the really really good ones that come on kind of happen fast?
Yeah, they do. I've heard it said that Hank Williams was quoted during his lifetime as saying if you couldn't write a song in 20 minutes, it wasn't worth writing. I don't look at it that way, because writing songs is a lot of perspiration along with the inspiration. But some of the best songs do just kind of pour out, and you look at a blank sheet of paper, and 30 minutes later it's got some words on it, and you say, where did that come from? it just kind of happens, and every writer I've ever talked with has had the same experience.
Well, you're about to celebrate your 55th year as a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Do you remember the first time you played the Opry?
Oh, sure. I was 4 years old. No, I was a little older than that. But nobody ever forgets the first time they played the Grand Ole Opry. First time I ever played there was in January of 1959, and then I became a member in July of 1961.
Wow. Do you remember the song you did?
Oh, yeah. You never forget that. I had my first record out on Decca Records, which was the first major label I ever recorded for. It was a song called That's What It's Like to Be Lonesome, and that's what I sang.
Wow. Well, this is kind of a dicey subject. I watched the Grand Ole Opry back in the days, when you were doing the backstage show beforehand, and so many of the legends were on it. And it seems that nowadays that a lot of the new artists don't do the Opry, and it seems like the old, the legends are kind of bailing everybody out. What's your thoughts on how the Opry's going right now?
Well, there are an awful lot of the young new artists that are on the Opry. Hardly a week goes by, but somebody's not making their debut on the Grand Ole Opry. I've had a couple of young artists on my show the last couple of weeks that I've been there. I think everybody still realizes the Opry is a very important thing in country music. It kind of has the slogan of the show that made country music famous, and I think in a lot of ways that's probably very true. The Opry's been around for 90 years, and hopefully it'll be around for 90 more.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Well, I also read you at the age of 19 wrote City Lights. I did not know that either.
I thought I was older than that too, but I thought I was growing back then. But I was just a 19-year-old kid wet behind the ears, trying to figure out a way to get in the music business, and that was kind of the key that opened the door for me.
Tell me how the Country's Family Reunion came about. You're kind of the the host of that and kind of the glue that holds that all together. How did that show really come about?
Larry Black, who's the producer of the show, came to me with the concept, and he admitted that he borrowed it from Bill Gaither. You know, Bill Gaither does the gospel reunion shows and has a lot of the old Southern gospel legends and all on those shows, and he wanted to do a country version of it. Bill Gaither said he didn't have time to do it. He was too involved with the gospel shows. And so Larry Black came to me and asked me if I'd like to host and maybe help him kind of put the format together and everything. And I thought it was a great idea. And that was almost 20 years ago, and we're still cranking out new shows, and it's still a great idea. And it's been a real blessing in my life because it's kept us on television. They don't play our records on the radio a whole lot anymore on the mainline country stations, but Country's Family Reunion has kept our music out there. It's kept our faces out there, and hopefully it'll continue for a long time.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. Shows like what I'm doing on internet station, I play nothing but the classic country. Are you finding there's a lot of influence with these stations coming up with satellite radio and internet radio as far as the classic country and getting more awareness to it?
Yes, and thank goodness for internet radio and satellite radio and the things where they don't, fence everything in and don't just play the latest and greatest or whatever. We're very grateful to you and people like you who are keeping the classic country alive, and most of us are continuing to make new music, so I hope you don't just play our old music. I hope you play the new music that we're still cranking out as well.
Well, absolutely, and I was just going to mention that. I just had Gene Watson on the show here last week, and he's got a wonderful brand new album out called Real Country Music. And
I know it, and I've got a song in it.
I know. I was just going to say that. Yep. I was just going to say that. Well, your latest album is called Life, and I absolutely love that album too. And we've been playing it on the show. And I want to ask you about a couple songs on here. One of them is the song with Joey and Rory called Whisper.
Went out to Joey and Rory's house and wrote that song with them one day, and I just love those people, and I'm so heartbroken over everything that's going on in their lives right now, and it's just very sad. But you can certainly see and hear Joey's personality and her talent shining through along with Rory's on there. We had a lot of fun making that record. We, as you can hear right at the end, we're breaking up, we're laughing, and it's very special to me to have had them on the record with me.
You bet, you bet. Well, even with all she's going through, you see the pictures on Facebook, she's still got a smile on her face, and that's just.
Well, she's just that kind of a person, yeah. And she put a smile on a lot of faces, including mine.
Amen. Another song I wanted to ask you about is Old Army Hat.
Well, that's kind of been the signature song from this record. That's based on a true story of a soldier who fought in World War II in the Pacific. And when I heard the story, I told my friend Walt Aldridge, who's a great songwriter, I said, this is a story, and it's a song waiting to be written. And so he sat down with me, and we wrote it together. And it's a very special song. Sometimes I have a hard time getting through it on the stage because it's a very emotional song, and to think that it really happened, which it did.
It's a beautiful song. And
thank you.
A lot of your are a lot of your songs written about personal experience and real life things, or is a lot of it just fictionalized?
A little bit of both. Sometimes I tell people sometimes it's hard to make the truth rhyme, so you have to kind of reach out and use your imagination sometimes. But some songs are absolutely verbatim the way that they happen. They just happen to fall that way. So mine are a little bit of both.
I need to ask you about this one. I've heard you tell this story before, but I just wanted to hear it again because I love this. Can you tell me the story behind the song, The Lord Knows I'm Drinking?
Well, that was a big hit, of course, back in about 1974, I think it was, for Cal Smith.
Yep.
The idea for the song came when my wife and I were having dinner at a little restaurant not far from where we live, and it's across the street from the church that we were going to at the time. And we were having a glass of wine with before our dinner, and some people from the church came walking in the door, and I said to my wife, I said, think we ought to maybe hide our drinks here, and I kind of slid my glass of wine over behind the menu that was propped up on the edge of the table. And Becky looked across the table at me, and she said, I'm not hiding my wine. The Lord knows I'm drinking. And I thought, wow, what a line. And I fell all over myself trying to get a pen and something to write on. And then I made up the story about Old Lady Johnson.
I love it. I love it. You know,
Thank you.
I mean, stuff like that, I mean, it's just golden, you know.
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you an interesting story. A funny little sidelight to that is the restaurant is still open. It's under a different name, but it's still open. And about 2 years ago, they put up a plaque on the wall in there with a copy of Cal Smith's record, and I think they got his picture and maybe my picture, and the story of the fact that the song was written in this particular little restaurant. So people that go in there now to have dinner or have a drink or whatever, they can read the story of this song.
Wow.
While they're there.
I love it. Well, I also read about a guitar that was returned to you recently. Tell me about that.
Well, it was an old Grammer guitar that Billy Grammer gave me back in the 1960s, and it had disappeared. I didn't know where it was, and a guy found it in a pawn shop out in Phoenix, Arizona, and through a long sequence of events, he got it back to me, and I'm playing it on stage again. It's very special.
That's wonderful. That's an amazing story. Well, you know, I'm not going to ask you, you know, if you have any favorite songs or anything like that, but are there any songs that stand out in your career that you would probably identify with the closest?
Yeah, there's probably a couple. Mama sang a song from early in my career because my mother inspired me so much in my music and my songwriting and in my life. And then the song that Dean Dillon and I wrote that Kenny Chesney recorded back in the early 2000s called A Lot of Things Different. I think as you mature in life and you look over your shoulder and back down some of the roads that you've traveled, you realize that if you could travel them again, you'd probably do some things different. And so from the early career, Mama sang a song. From the later career, A Lot of Things Different. I think they kind of sum up Bill Anderson and a lot of what he's all about just in those two songs.
As you were writing your new book, The Unprecedented Life in Country Music, which, by the way, folks, is available at BillAnderson.com. You can pre-order it by March 31st and get an autographed copy.
And free shipping by March 31st
and
as well.
Free shipping, all right. And you're on Facebook, too. I just wanted to mention that, too.
Oh, yeah, I'm everywhere you can be.
I guess so.
And I enjoy this social media world. I enjoy being able to be in touch with the fans and email to them and Twitter and talk and all this kind of stuff. And, hey, man, again, we sure thank you for keeping our traditional country music going, and thank you for taking a few minutes out to let me visit with you today.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. In your book, is there any surprises that people are going to be kind of shocked to hear about?
Well, you have to buy it and find out.
Well, there you go. If that's not a teaser.
Read it and let me know if you were shocked by anything.
If that's not a teaser, I don't know what is. Well, Bill, it has been a true pleasure to have you on My Kind of Country. I've been a lifelong fan, and of course, you know, like I said earlier, the songs, we'd be lost without them, and I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I really appreciate taking the time.
Well, I enjoyed listening with you. Thank you for playing the songs and the records and the music, and to all your listeners, thank you very, very much, and hope to see everybody somewhere along the way before too long.
You are a busy man. You can check out tour dates on his website, BillAnderson.com, and of course, you're always on TV. You know, you're either on the Opry or on Country's Family Reunion or Larry's Country Diner. Somewhere you're going to see Bill Anderson, I guarantee it.
Well, I look better on the radio, but I am on TV a lot, so look forward to seeing the folks there as well. radio.
I'm with you there. They say that they give the ugly people in radio jobs because the pretty people have to be on TV. All right, Bill Anderson. We're going to continue with our very special tribute to Bill Anderson. We're doing a whole show, and these are all songs that are either written or co-written by Mr. Bill Anderson. And we're going to play one off of his newest CD, Life, which you can also get at his website as we continue on My Kind of Country. Bill Anderson, thank you again.
Thank you, Scott.